Christina joins us now from Connecticut, along with Leah Libresco-Sargeant, a writer, author, and speaker on pro-life issues, featured in the New York Times just this week. Thank you both for joining us. Christina, the immediate response to those pushing for a right to abortion was to bemoan the impact the Supreme Court decision would have on minority women. How will this decision really impact them?
Well, I think it will give us an opportunity for life, an opportunity to preserve the lives of our families. We've been targeted by the abortion industry since the beginning of Planned Parenthood. They're rooted in eugenics and population control, and Margaret Sanger had her Negro Project. So since the beginning of their work, they've put their abortion clinics in our neighborhood and they've targeted us. And now, thanks to the Supreme Court, we have an opportunity for states to protect the lives of our children in our community. I think it'll cause the Black community to flourish and to grow.
Leah, hearing Christina and everything that she's saying, did that have anything to do with why you moved from being pro-abortion to being pro-life?
I think the thing a lot of people can acknowledge, even people who push for abortion access, is that it's not a pro-choice society when a lot of mothers feel that only one choice, abortion, is open to them. And our challenge is that taking abortion off the table shouldn't lead to a narrower life or a more constrained life, but a flourishing life where people feel that violence is no longer demanded of them as the entry price to succeed in society.
Well, we're definitely going to lean into that. But before that, Christina, you had comments on religious leadership that were very important, or rather the lack of it. After the decision, you pointed to some leaders who weren't talking about the impact that this decision could have. What do you think religious leadership should be doing now that the abortion question is up to the states?
I think they should be speaking biblical truth. And the Bible shows us that God is the author and the creator of life. He tells us, choose life that you and your descendants may live. And I know that doesn't directly talk about abortion, but as you read the scriptures, it's clear that you see that God cares about the life of the vulnerable, the weak, those that are appointed to die, and he fights for them, as well as widows and orphans and mothers, and he wants them to flourish and to live. And so I think leaders need to be bold and speak the truth, even if it offends your congregations, even if it causes people to walk out, even if it causes people to perhaps not give tithe money to the church. It's worth it, because when we speak truth as religious leaders, we are saving lives. And there's also women in our congregations who had abortions and they're hurt, and they need to know that there's healing and forgiveness. And so it's so important for us to be bold and to speak truth regardless of the cost.
Leah, you're listening to this from Christina about religious leadership, but I know that you also emphasize secular leadership and that the abortion really is the price of admission that society demands of women, like you just said. Making abortion illegal is one step people can pursue, but you've said it isn't enough. How can our culture make more room for the vulnerable babies and their mothers?
I think the first step is always providing clear material support. Parents don't have access to parental leave. An astounding proportion of Americans don't have $200 on hand for an emergency, and a baby is full of emergencies. So direct material support to parents is where we start. But you're right that this is also a specifically religious problem, because it's not just material support that people need, it's hope in the darkest of times. Hope that God has a special plan and a particular love for each individual, no matter how hard the circumstances of their birth.
And you were challenged a little bit this week by the person who was leading your New York Times commentary, saying, well, you're saying that women need more opportunities. How are you going to give them that when you're not letting them have abortions?
I think the issue is there's a lot of things that could technically give us more opportunities, by saying no to someone else's life, a parent walking away from their children after birth, a husband and wife, walking away from each other just to play the field, see what everything else could be. But our goal isn't to have every single option open to us. It's to have the option to do the right thing, to be supported in our duties to others. And I think too many vulnerable mothers who want to get to meet their children feel like there's no support for that choice for them.
And a big lack of accompaniment. Christina, what would you add about what we can commit to reduce or remove the pressures that lead women to consider ending the lives of their children?
I think we have to be involved in our community I think it's very important for us to support pregnancy resource centers. They're under attack right now. Their buildings are being attacked, graffitied, firebombed. It's important for us to know where they're at. So when pregnant women call us or contact us, we can take them there for an appointment, or we can take them to our local church or our community organizations. Do you know where to go if a pregnant woman contacts you and she needs housing, or she's in a domestic violence situation and she needs to get out of it, or she needs to find affordable health care, or she needs to find a good job? Do you know the numbers to call? Do you know the resources in your city or state that you can help her? It's important for us to be knowledgeable about these things.
And for us to be engaged. Leah, leaning into the conversation about pregnancy centers, you talked about misinformation about the role pregnancy centers play and access to important life-saving treatments for women. It's all over social media. The confusion is very real. How are you countering this?
I think one of the best ways is to know a specific pregnancy center that you volunteer at, or you know someone else who volunteers at that you can speak to in detail. Because it's a big country. There aren't 0 pregnancy centers that ever make a mistake or do something bad, but being able to point to, here's the one I know, here's how I know what they do, here's concretely what I've seen them do, is a better way to answer than to answer in the aggregate.
Christina, last question for you then about adoption. Minority women believe that abortion keeps their rights in place, and they don't realize that they have other options. You've talked about adoption as one of the things that most people don't discuss. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes, unfortunately, there is a stigma with adoption. And I know when I used to work for a pregnancy center, I met many young women who were so afraid of adoption that in their mind, abortion was a better option than adoption. But we have to just educate people and let them know that there's different ways that you can adopt. My husband and I, we adopted through the foster care system at the beginning of the pandemic, through a foster to adopt program in Connecticut. There's also different agencies that you can adopt through, open adoption, closed adoption. So it's getting rid of the stigmas and helping people understand that this is an option. Of course, it's not going to be an option for every person, and it is not without complications and trauma and pain, because those are all real parts of adoption. It's not a quick fix, but it is a way for a child to be brought into a loving family. And so I would encourage all families, especially those that are pro-life, to look into this and to see if you have room to do this, whether it's something like foster care or whether it's something like fully taking in a child to your house through adoption.
Well, we definitely have much work to do. Thank you both, and we'll be watching what you're saying.
God bless.